Mary.
Mary Wilhelm. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I told them I didn't need a microphone, that I actually orate fairly well, but now that I look out and see some of you for the first time in many years, maybe I need a microphone, because I think we're all a little longer in tooth than we were before. But can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Exactly. I thought nothing less, and I knew it would be my brother, and I knew it would be Frank. So, good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of my mother, my brother, and the rest of our family, I would like to thank you all for taking the time out of your busy schedule and coming out here on a snowy Saturday. I know it means nothing to you guys what the weather is right now, but those of us in Florida, this still sucks. For my father's memorial service, and in joining with us to say goodbye to him for one last time. For anyone that knows me, which I think pretty much everyone here does, I am not a man of few words. But my father, however, was, and with this in mind, I'm going to endeavor to honor his preferences and keep this brief. My father passed on October 22nd at the ripe old age of 90. He never looked as old as he was. That was not too long before he died, so I think it's because he ate well and he kept active. But Dad never had any what you would call hobbies. He just simply worked. He worked all the time. He worked at everything. Yeah, I see the nodding heads. He worked in the military building and repairing target drones. After that, he worked in the trucking industry, managing people who repaired trucks and repairing trucks himself. Then he bought a Carvel ice cream parlor so that he could merely work 70 or 80 hours a week at his own business. Upon retiring from ice cream, he went to work as a mailman for the post office. So he was always working. In his spare time, he preferred to work at home rather than putting his feet up. He had a work ethic that I doubt I will ever equal. As a matter of fact, at age 83, he was on a ladder in the yard with a chainsaw. Okay, my mother told him that he was too old to do such things. His response, "Watch me." With that, the ladder slipped, he fell and broke his hip. Typical. The doctor said he would probably never walk normally again. Well, he worked hard at rehab, and 3 months later he was back to normal. We did, however, take the chainsaw away. My dad did not have a sense of humor. It wasn't that he didn't enjoy a good joke, he just didn't always get them, and he sure as hell couldn't tell one. Okay, you all know that. And because he didn't know that he couldn't tell one, he was sometimes very, very unintentionally funny. If you look at the board over here, I heard somebody asking about it earlier, it says that he was Prince Charming. Well, because my dad worked most of his career with truckers and repairmen and mechanics, people at the ice cream parlor thought he was very gruff. They would say, "Hey, who's that grumpy guy at the ice cream parlor?" Well, that's my dad. They just didn't understand his sense of humor. But my dad openly declared one day that he thought, and truly thought, that everyone at the ice cream parlor, all the customers, thought that he was charming. That led us to buy him a shirt that said, "Hello, I'm Prince Charming." He wore it proudly, and he's wearing it proudly today, actually. Well, in true Disney fashion, Prince Charming met my mom when he was 21 and she was just about to turn 18. They married in May of 1958 and had celebrated their 66th anniversary just a few months before he passed. In a world where marriages rarely achieve such milestones, he worked hard at being a husband and worked hard at being a father. Up until his mind started going, I was still seeking his advice or his guidance, or how to repair something. Because I broke shit and I didn't know how to fix it, so I knew he did. We were very blessed with my father. Many of my friends lost their fathers 10 or 20 years ago. We got to keep him all of this time, and right up until the end, he was still pretty good and pretty active. In the end, his mind was ravaged with Alzheimer's and dementia, but that doesn't diminish the fact that he was a good man and a wonderful father, and we loved him. Thank you very much. Would anyone else like to say a few words? Steve?
Oh, golly. Yeah. If I can hold it together. I'm Steve. This man here is like a second dad to me. We met him about 38 years ago. He had the ice cream store. We became very good friends. I did tree work, cut firewood and stuff, so George would, hey, you want to come over and do this for me? You want to do that for me? And shortly after that, they moved to Florida. And wife and I were traveling back and forth to Florida, and George had this nice piece of property there. And he said, hey Steve, you want to come trim a tree or two? It was like a forest. Now, can you do this? Can you do that? Well, that stump's in my way, and this is, well, when you come up again, I'll have you do this. And he was constantly raking leaves. Every time I turned around, he said, gosh damn these leaves. He'd say, I just took 4 loads of them to the dump. And to get up there, and we'd sit there, and he had this special chair that he used to sit in the house. And I go in the house, of course, after we got done doing our stuff, we took a shower. That's my chair, Steve. I said, no, I said, that's my chair. Okay, George. And you sit in that chair and you fall asleep. It was a sleepy chair. George we bought a place in Florida and needed some work, and George and Pat came down and, no, Steve. No. This is how it's, no, Steve, this is how it's done. He had to make sure that everything was, and he would help me do that, and we bought a used camper that needed a little work. Well, him and Pat came down, and he says, okay, Steve, no, come on, got to do this. And he would instruct me how to do everything. And when I got done, he says, now see, you did it the way I told you, and it's got done right. Okay, George. And I always treasured the time I spent with him, because he would, I lost my father at 19 years old, and he was a great father figure. He'd always tell me, Steve, you know, you gotta do this. Okay, George. And he was, you know, like Bill said, his work ethic is something that you will probably never see again, because he was constantly, you know, we'd sit down, where's George? Well, outside he's raking leaves, or he's over here doing this, or removing some brush, and I'd say, George, let me help. Oh, I'm all right. And, you know, he was, in his mind was so brilliant when it came to mechanics. I would ask him a question. Okay, Steve, this is how, okay, George, now, write it down so you don't forget it, Steve. Okay, George. he was, he was a great man. And he was a great father to these kids. And to the grandfather. I can't say enough about the man. And he will be greatly missed. I was honored to know him. And me and his wife, they constantly, we go to the house, and Pat had this habit of munja. You get in the house, come on, Steve, sit down here, have something to eat, Well, yeah, have something more to eat, you know? And things like that, you don't, they're memories that will live with me forever, you know? And I can't say enough about the man. He was a great man and a great friend. And I wish I'd have got to Florida to see him one more time. To rattle his cage. I remember when he fell out of the tree. And I says, George, what are you doing? Oh, you know, Steve, you just got up on the ladder to do this. And I said, George, you told me once that you were not a tree man. I'm a tree man. He said, well, I just thought I could get up there on the step ladder with him. I said, okay, George. And I said, what happened? Oh, I broke my head. No problem. So, I could go on for hours, but there's not enough time to say everything I need to say about him. But George, my friend, you rest in peace and you will be greatly missed. That's all I got.
Would anyone else like to say a few words? Okay, well, we will be celebrating my dad's life the rest of today at the rental house that we have in South Portwright. If you don't know where it is and you would like to join us, see my wife or my brother or myself, we have the Google Maps link that we can text you and you can follow us out there. Yes, it's got a cow pasture driveway going up to the top of the hill, but we made my nephew go ahead and shovel out some places where we can get some cars in there today, and everything should be okay.
I got 4-wheel drive.
There we go. Well then, Steve, when we have to do a beer run, we're sending you out because you're going to have to go right down the hill.
All righty, not a problem.
Thank you once again for everyone coming, and I hope we see you up at the house in a little while.